if you were merely skimming through the news today, then you might have been left with the impression that the government has finally cracked down on illegal migration. Indeed, here was the Home Office's statement accompanying today's data release. It said, "These statistics show real progress as we restore order and control to our borders. We've removed nearly 60,000 illegal migrants. Numbers in asylum hotels are down. Law enforcement action against people smugglers is at record levels, and we are bearing down on the asylum backlog." Indeed, it's true that the number of migrants in hotels is at its lowest level in 18 months. But what they haven't made clear is that the numbers are merely back to the same levels that Labour inherited. And the real question remains, where are those migrants that are no longer in hotels? Well, there's a simple answer. Many of them are in HMOs or houses or military barracks in a street near you. Indeed, 68,000 are now privately rented flats and houses across the country, paid for by you, the British taxpayer. Now, indeed, it's also true that 60,000 illegal migrants left the UK in the last 18 months, but the government didn't mention that you, the British taxpayer, were paying many of them up to £3,000 a head to clear off home. But perhaps most importantly of all, of the 41,000 small boat migrants who illegally entered the country last year, only 6% of them were ever removed, and indeed just 4% since 2018. Now, on top, 5 small boat migrant nationalities, that's Sudan, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iran and Eritrea, only 206 were ever deported. Now, let's be very, very clear about this. These top small boat migrant nationalities are hugely overrepresented in sex offences, with Afghans and Sudanese at the very top of that list. These nationalities are also hugely overrepresented in violent crime, with Somalis, Afghans and Eritreans in the top offenders too. In other words, the people who really ought to be deported, people illegally crossing the channel from countries overrepresented in criminality, are barely being deported at all. It's really very, very simple. If there genuinely are mass deportations, as the government would have us believe, then where on earth is the footage? I'm joined now by the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company. The government were telling us today, relax. We've taken back control of our borders. Nothing to see here. As we've just laid out, that's a total charade.
You're absolutely right. This 60,000 figure is smoke and mirrors. Of that total, over a third left the UK without the Home Office even realising, and they've subsequently included them in the figures. Another quarter left being paid by the Home Office to leave. That's cost us £40 million since Labour took office. Just a quarter of that 60,000, about 14,000, were actually deported. And of those that were deported, 2/3 were Europeans. And in large part, that's because the last Conservative government eventually secured a deal with Albania that made it a lot easier to remove individuals to Albania. But as you set out, those nationalities that are really causing the small boats crisis, just 213 deportations. Other countries that we know are a significant factor in the illegal migration crisis, Pakistan, for instance, just 200. And this is simply because we are too effusive and we're too reluctant to deport certain individuals back to certain countries. And this is a real problem when we sort of start saying, well, individuals simply can't be returned to Afghanistan or Syria because it's not fair on them. This is just simply not what the rest of Europe is looking at. Germany today has deported for the first time 20 Afghan criminals back to their country of origin. It's time we did the same.
Rob Bates, it's OK for the government to get overexcited about getting rid of a few Brazilians who are overstayed their work visas and paying them $3,000 a pop for the privilege. But the facts are the facts. The most dangerous men from the most dangerous patriarchal countries on the planet, Eritrea, Iran, Afghanistan, Sudan, Somalia, we are pitifully incapable of deporting those people. We have no returns agreements, and the country can gloss over this all they like. But these figures say to me, and I want your opinion on this, if you come from one of the world's most dangerous countries and you come to Britain, you're more or less guaranteed to stay here.
That's exactly it. The more dangerous the cultural milieu in which you were brought up, and the more likely you are to hold the views of that socialisation process, the more likely you are to be given asylum in the UK. And you went through some of the statistics here. We know these nationalities coming across on the small boats are overrepresented in all types of crime, but in particular sex crime. And this is something that actually the Home Office is still refusing to publish the full unredacted, unedited data itself, because it knows that once that information is out there in the public, the conversation will completely shift about human rights, away from human rights and all this kind of international law, and on to actually, why have we put the British public in such jeopardy for such a long period of time? And when you can marry this fact with the boast from the Home Office that they're moving away from using hotels and instead putting individuals in HMOs. Well, HMOs actually expose the public to greater risk because they're less audited, they're less sort of monitored whilst they're in these HMOs, they're more dispersed around the community, and therefore the opportunities for criminality to be engaged in is much, much higher.
You know, Rob Bates, the true figure that really matters is small boats. It might be smaller in number to legal migration, but we know it's the big ticket issue with the electorate. 13% increase from 2024. We know that yesterday was a record day for the time of year. Already this year, we've surpassed 2025 and 2024. There's no sign of taking back control. There's every sign of it spiralling out of control. And day by day by day, more violent men are being imported. That's what people really care about. And they see themselves in real peril of being in danger in their communities.
That's absolutely right. I don't know how many more cases of horrific offences we have to see before we start to recognise that we are importing danger. I think actually there's an argument now that we need to head towards where we start to recognise individuals that have arrived in the UK illegally and then go on to commit a crime need to have their means of arrival being illegal considered as an aggravating factor. I think actually there's a lot more that needs to be done to clamp down on this crisis. The Labour government clearly not prepared to take any dramatic measures. The Home Secretary said a few weeks ago that she doesn't consider the numbers will come down this year. So we are set for another year of around about 40 to 50,000 coming into the UK. A majority of them will have their asylum claims granted. They're going to cost us hundreds of thousands of pounds each over the course of their lifetime. And then there is the very fact that these individuals are not being vetted, that it's impossible to get a real feel for who these individuals are, what their background are, if they've had any criminality in their background. And this is the real risk. And this is the real concern of the British public. The government are telling us that the public are just concerned about the costs of hotels and these long-term lucrative contracts. But actually, the reality is we don't want these individuals in the country in the first place. And it's time, and Labour obviously won't do this, for us to leave the ECHR and start a routine process of detention and deportation within 2 weeks. This is the only way to solve the crisis.
OK, Rob Bates, thanks for joining us. That's the Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control. Thank you, as always, for your company.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GBNews in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
I'm delighted to now be joined in the studio by my panel tonight is the editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Alistair Heath, and the former political secretary to Tony Blair, John McTernan. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Alistair Heath, I'm going to start with you. The government spin and spin away, but the facts are the facts. The small boats crisis is completely and utterly out of control, and we have a total impotence to get rid of the most dangerous people from the most dangerous countries. That's what people really care about.
Yes, I mean, I think they also care about overall migration volumes, both legal and illegal, and those overall volumes still remain much, much too high. So I think that's also very important. I'll just push back on one thing that has been said. I think the paying people £3,000 to leave is actually a very good deal. Other countries do that too. I think that's very cheap, really, compared with any alternative. But I think ultimately, right, there's a fundamental problem here, which is that we can't vet people who come here. And the reason we can't vet people who come here is because the British establishment for the last few decades has believed in a core principle called the principle of non-refoulement, which is that if anyone turns up here and can claim that they would be a risk in any way whatsoever if they were returned, then they can't be returned. And that means that even if you're a criminal and you come here, in fact, that might increase your chances of staying because you could say that you'd be, punished in a horrible way if you went back or something like that. So that is what has to change. The fundamental legal architecture, the entire ideological superstructure underpinning this failed model has to change. I think that's really, really important.
John McTernan, we had Sue reading from the Daily Mail earlier on. The Daily Mail have been watching the Ramsgate Arrival Centre because Dover's so worn out from overuse. They were timing the boats coming in yesterday, and individuals are being searched for 30 seconds. 30 seconds each. Entire boatloads being wafted into Britain within 30 minutes. It's simply not good enough. And when will we have a government, a Home Office, a political class, period, that takes it seriously? The British public safety is being put at risk by our porous borders.
How?
How?
Yeah.
How many more rapes you need to see? How many more child abductions? How many more crimes? How many more statistics need to be read out to you, John, before you face reality?
Did you listen to the headlines? The headlines were about Ian Huntley. Ian Huntley was born in this country, not vetted, born in this country.
John, this is the masterclass in deflection. This is the masterclass in deflection.
A vile murderer.
Yeah, and he's in prison where he belongs.
In prison.
He almost got killed today. Some people might say he deserves that too. Back on point.
No.
Our borders are endangering our public.
They're not. These are refugees from Sudan. You had a question like, well, there's no returns agreement with Sudan. Who is the government of Sudan to make an agreement with? The country's got
anybody from Sudan can simply waltz in and we're powerless.
The country's in the middle of a civil war. What are we meant to do about people who apply for refugee status in our country because they're fleeing a civil war?
So you're saying
it's un-British to say, you know what we're going to do? Send you back to a civil war because we're going to agree with the illegal government of one part of that.
So you think it's British to allow any man from any war zone anywhere in the world into our country because that's the British thing to do? That's ridiculous.
It is British to have refugees able to come to seek sanctuary in our country. And this racist attempt by you to connect refugees...
It's pathetic. Pathetic to call it racist.
Right. It is racist.
Look at the data. The
data
is race-free.
It's made up statistics.
You show me then. Show us the data.
Not based on Home.
Give us the real data. If the Home Office has the data, which we keep asking for, we've been asking for years, if it's out there, give us the data, show us the facts and prove us wrong. You can't.
No, you tell me to disprove made-up data. I'm not going to disprove made-up data. This country has a commitment to accepting refugees and people who come here.
And that should be a limitless thing, should it?
It's a thing which we should be coordinating with other countries in Europe through the European Union. I think it would be a whole lot easier if we were back in the European Union, to be honest.
Because the European Union countries at all haven't got the same issues. It's worse in France. It's worse in Germany. Germany is sending them back to the Taliban. Why can't we do the same?
Well, because I think we're actually Britain, not Germany. We need to.
You just said we should follow the European Union. Germany is the powerhouse of the European Union.
So we should work with the European Union, and Spain is the powerhouse of the European Union.
Well, they've just taken 500,000 illegal immigrants in and given them.
They're not illegal. They've made them Spanish citizens, European Union citizens.
John, back in the real world, do you not see any problem with unvetted men being wafted into our country in 30 minutes where we've got no idea where they're from, who they are, what their background is, anything about it? You think that's fine?
I think that is racist nonsense. Racist nonsense to say, because this is a man who's applying for refugee status, they must be barred.
Do you think it's racist?
They're a man. I do think it's racist.
You think it's racist to look at the data objectively?
There's no data. You said that the Home Office haven't released data.
No, there is data based on the arrest of nationality for particular crimes, sex crime, violent crime. The data is there. But we have to do FOIs and do workarounds to every police force in Britain because the Home Office don't want us to know. Why don't they want us to know? Because the truth will blow the wheels off the multicultural dream. It'll blow the wheels off the open borders zealots like you.
Sorry, multicultural dream. We're a multicultural country. It's not a dream, it's a reality.
Yeah, and how's that reality working out?
That reality is pretty good. If you
think it is?
If you live in London, multicultural, multi-faith city. You live in Bristol, multicultural, multi-faith city. You live in Liverpool, multicultural, multi-faith city. You live anywhere in England, multicultural, multi-faith. We've got multi-faith schools. We're actually a multicultural country. And we have been since my people came in the 19th century.
What's changed is the huge volume of people coming in and from cultures, which, let's face it, the Taliban last week declared domestic violence to be legal. You can beat your wife, you can beat your children until you break their bones and leave open wounds. That's the law in Afghanistan. Are you telling me, John, are you telling me that men that come from that culture don't bring a bit of that with them?
Yeah,
or do they become magically liberalised the moment they set foot in Dover?
I'm telling you that the Taliban are dictators in Afghanistan, and their power does not include being able to make people into their own image. They're a minority terrorist organisation that control the country through terror. You're saying that
men from Afghanistan aren't at all likely to be impacted by the fact their government tells them it's okay to beat women senseless. You don't think that would happen?
No, people from it's your racist, deterministic nonsense. You say that men from Afghanistan will have to live and be they have to behave.
No, but
they have to behave like the Taliban.
If it's permitted legally to beat women and children, you don't think they might think, okay, that's fine to do that?
You should listen to yourself.
John, you're delusional.
It is not.
John, you're delusional, mate.
It's not Islamic to do that. It is wrong to do that. It's not Christian to do that. It's wrong to do that. It's not moral to do that. And
do you actually believe what you're saying?
I believe that adults in Afghanistan, men and women, are not automatons who obey the Taliban. And I think that you saying that Afghan men will be infected by Taliban ideology is deterministic and racist and rubbish.
And I think you're delusional to believe that people who live in a society where it's deemed legal to be a wife beater and a child beater won't think it's okay to do that. I think that's dangerous and I think you're misguided. But we'll have to disagree and agree to disagree on this point. John McTernan,